So now, thank you very much for the break. Let us look at the history of psychology of religion. As you can see on your screen, is history of psychology of religion. Let's take about 20 minutes about it or less. The phrase psychology of religion has been in the global scene since the latter part of the 19th century. However, there are several theories that explains how it underwent historical stages. The first theory explains that the history of the psychology of religion began with William Woodit in 1879, as many scholars unanimously regard him to be the one. Of course, others will say something different as we go along. It further says that while working at the University of Leipzig, Germany in 1879, Wilhelm Woodit turned psychology into a science by establishing the first ever psychological laboratory. The second theory says that psychology of religion entered the global scene in 1899 when American scholar by name Edwin Starbuck published his book Psychology of Religion. The book was entitled Psychology of Religion. You see, now it got clearer and clearer as people began to shape it up. And here it's not long. It is just the other day, 1879. Now we have 1899. First book we see bearing the subject, 1899. Now this book is constantly cited the first textbook in the psychology of religion field. The first book. In turn, it is psychoanalytically influenced a 1923 book publication which went under the same title. The latter was authored by Robert Torres. Hence, the 1899 and 1923 books are often cited as some of the earliest books, especially from Britain. The third theory regarding how psychology of religion was birthed has it that it is the American psychologist and philosopher William James, who died in 1910 and was born in 1842, so he died around 68 years, at the age of 68, is regarded as the founder of the field of psychology of religion, as he had immense contributions. In this regard, William James is said to have been very instrumental in the realization of the psychology of religion, and that in 1891 he published his magnum opus, the book The Principles of Psychology. And then in 1902 he published The Varieties of Religious Experience. You can see religious experience is nothing but psychology of religion. Experience is psychological. Yeah, so you see it went on shaping up. Also, principles of psychology, you could not evade religion. As we noted, religious spirituality is a psychological term. We have never thought of it outside psychology of religion. Spirituality, that which cites you to a possession. Besides the above theories, of course there are many others, we also have prehistory of psychology of religion. In other words, how was it explicated before the coinage of the phrase psychology of religion? Before the 1870s, 1880s, and 1890s, when the phrase psychology of religion came to the global scene, psychologists sought to separate psychology from philosophy and the study of religion from theology. Something else, in 1873, in 1873, Max Muller, who lived between 1823 and died in 1900, so that's the age of 77. This German-born philologist and Orientalist wrote the introduction to the science of religion, and in 1889 he wrote Natural Religion. On and on, Edward B. Taylor, in 1871, he wrote Primitive Culture. Now, these publications gave rise to the new methodologies in the study of religion that are prevalent right into the 21st century, albeit some revisions. Additionally, it is significant to recall that European scholars such as Francis Gatton, in his statistical investigations into the efficacy of prayer of 1869, he contributed heavily to the scientific study of religion. You see all these contributions. That's how it grew historically. In his book, Approaches to the Study of Religion, Peter Connery, 1999, just the other day, has noted that an American psychologist, Granville Stanley Hall, born 1846, died 1924, founded the first school of religious psychology at Clark University. Hall was a major force in organizing the field, focusing on scientific approaches, and in 1883 establishing a psychology laboratory at the university. In 1887 he launched the American Journal of Psychology, and in 1892 he convened the American Psychological Association and served as its first president. Now, our interest, however, is not on who promoted psychology as a discipline, but ours is psychology of religion. We are very clear on that. Ours is psychology of religion, not promotion of psychology as such. Okay? Nevertheless, a psychology laboratory had to necessarily serve religion, because we are religious persons. Yeah, we are religious inclined. Now, in his book, The Psychology of Religion, a short introduction, Kurt M. Lowento, 2008, Kurt M. Lowento, 2008 publication, Psychology of Religion, a short introduction, has insisted that it was Granville Stanley Hall who actually invited Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, his student, to America in 1909 in pursuit of psychological discoveries. Certainly, Hall was specialized in the moral and religious education of children. Psychologists of religion have consistently drawn their field back to 1882 when Hall published an address on moral and religious education. Without touching on morality and religion, he could not have been said to be a contributor in the psychology of religion. Now, concerning the last part on other historical developments regarding how the subject came into being, let me use the 2-3 minutes to say that as the study of psychology of religion reached its zenith, two major trends emerged on how to study religion within psychology. That is, descriptive and explanatory. Descriptive trend approaches religion from within. It's rooted in the religious writings, such as scriptures of religious traditions, non-canonical works for spiritual elevation, such as St. Augustine's Confessions. While the explanatory trend approaches religion from without, it can be traced back to the 3rd century BCE when Greek philosophers such as Euhemerus to Enlightenment period, with philosophers such as David Hume, who concluded that religion was a product of fear since religion was not what it appeared to be. Thus, it attempts to explain religious phenomenon outside its religious writings from an outsider perspective. Now, in the 1950s, when Gordon Opport's individual and his religion, in the 1950s, with Gordon Opport's book, The Individual and His Religion, the psychology of religion again entered the domain of psychology. In the 1960s and 1970s, the interest in the psychology of religion grew as the humanistic approach made leeway over behaviorism. In the 21st century, there is renaissance in the popularity of the psychology of religion. This evidently, or this evidentially seen as this is evidentially seen as questions arise concerning the role that spirituality and religion play not only in mental health but in physical well-being as well. It is a dynamic field in this millennium, the third millennium, where lots of energy and resources being put on it, with mushrooming of new religious movements and cults in tropical Africa. Psychology of religion as a discipline will remain a common unit in our universities, tertiary institutions, and seminaries as a measure of enabling learners or students to understand the society that they are living in and eventually take care. It is Wole Soyinka, the Nigerian playwright, who once cautioned, "Be careful. Saints are dangerous for your health." So now, what do we say as we conclude? Without a psychological understanding of these emerging saintly groups that are mushrooming at a supersonic speed in the tropical Africa, we might not be able to avoid or stop fires that might be razing down houses. Certainly, a historical survey of psychology of religion helps us to understand and realistically predict the incoming religious trends in the future and even today. Those ones that are there already can be understood through this study, through the psychology of religion. Now, more comments now. Let's hear a comment now.